Okay. Serenity now. Serenity now. Excuse me. I'm so serene. I'm just part of one large consciousness blob. We are all one. All that separates us is our egos.
I know of no one more worthy of a Nobel Peace
Namaste.
Prize than this gentle monk from
Nam Yo Renge Kyo.
largely due to Thich Nhat Hanh's influence.
I'm chanting as we speak.
Publicly against the war at a press conference with Nhat Hanh in Chicago.
Sweetie.
When Thomas Merton, the well-known Catholic monk and mystic, met Thich Nhat Hanh at his monastery, Gethsemane, near Louisville, Kentucky, he told his students, just the way he opens the door and enters a room demonstrates his understanding.
Alexa, stop. I don't want to do too much of that because I might get copyrighted. So anyways, before I look at the news today and get really angry about all the homicidal monkey tribes out there trying to kill each other. That's my land. It's my land. My religion's better than your religion. There is no religion. Everybody kill everybody. Everybody's busy killing each other. Ukraine is not a country. Palestine is not a country. Russia, big country. I like to listen. I listen to this guy, this rabbi, Jacob Shapiro, and so I don't hate anyone, because it's not right to hate anyone. It's important to remember that Germans aren't naturally, well, I think they actually are naturally warlike, but to think that Jews are naturally sneaky and are trying to cheat you and, Jeffrey Epstein, Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Italians are all in the mafia, all these different stereotypes. I think some stereotypes are right, but now I'm getting deflected. Like my grandmother. She had blonde hair and blue eyes. So we thought she was, well, she was German. She was just, well, never mind. You never know. That's the other thing. So sometimes stereotypes are wrong. It's like Lauren Bacall used to say. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she was working for a director one time, and the director went, you just don't look Jewish. And she said, she bit her tongue, and she said, oh, thank you. That stayed with her, and it bothered her, but that was her. She thought that was very, I know the guy meant it as a compliment, but obviously she found that very offensive. Anyways, my grandmother, not Lauren Bacall, but my grandmother, was obsessed with cleanliness. And it was like she had a radar for dirt. She would boil, we thought she was crazy. If you smoked around, this was like Hitler, for God's sakes. If you smoked around the kids, she'd go crazy. She was not a violent person generally, but she'd get really, she'd grab a kitchen utensil and say, don't smoke around my grandchildren. You're going to poison their lungs. They'll get emphysema. And people thought she was crazy because there was a doctor, Dr. Weisberg, would smoke around the kids. And she says, you're a doctor. You should know better. And he didn't. He was a doctor and he didn't know. They didn't know about secondhand smoke. And she never graduated from high school, but she knew. She knew before she said there's something off in that water, and she'd boil it before like if you wanted to drink water instead of have milk, she'd boil it before she'd give it to someone to drink. And we thought, she's absolutely nuts. About 3 years later, they said, there's a lot of pollution in the water. This is, before people were just becoming conscious of the environment. But she did this before. And they said, maybe you should boil your water because, sometimes they don't get all the impurities out. I don't know whether it was like a scare or something, but there was a water alert. And they told us to boil the water. And she'd been boiling the water before. It was like she had radar. That sounds crazy, but it's like she had a radar for filth. When she had Alzheimer's, she kept the house. I mean, literally, I'm telling you, you could eat off of this woman's floors. You could eat off the floors. You could actually eat off the floors. I mean, not that we did, because we had plates, and the plates were spotless. She didn't have this is before dishwashers, but she would not leave the house until all the dishes were clean, all the windows were clean, all the surfaces were dusted. It was like something inside of her, everything had to be clean. My mom wasn't like that. I think she got the French blood. Anyways, not that there's anything filthy. Because you know what? This is another stereotype that's wrong. I went to France and I looked for filth. Oh, the French are dirty. They piss in the streets. All these things. That I see. I guess it's the scientific method. I actually went to Paris. I went to the dirtiest, filthiest place in Paris, and found that it wasn't dirty or filthy. I saw a little graffiti, but compared to American cities with burning cars and people shitting on the streets and living in tents. Of course, this is before all that happened, even here. Um, it is just a total. It's just a total lie. And when I went back to where my family was from in the Moselle, which was German French or French German or whatever, it's like Luxembourg. It's a little bit of both. Although in Luxembourg they speak a unique language called Mosel Frankish. I think they speak French, but they also speak German. I don't know. I'm doing that thing where I digress. I'm like Edith Bunker. Anyways, it was probably one of the cleanest places I've ever been. So I was really angry. The French are dirty, and I'll tell you, they're not dirty. They're very clean people. They don't. Although somebody told me the French do smell because they don't wash every day. I never got close enough to a Frenchman or a French woman, but I don't think they smell. I think some people just have a prejudice, and they're very nice dressers. I find a lot of the stereotypes of the French offensive because I think I'm French. I mean, just because you have relatives, the 23andMe thing, just between you and me, it came up Dutch and German. It's just German and French, but the German people that 23andMe thing were just around the border. Were Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria. They're right by the border, right next to Luxembourg, and well, here, this is going to happen again. It's happening. Oh dear. Baden-Württemberg. So I didn't actually show that I had any DNA from France, but it was like right near the border, near to France, and some other stuff that I won't talk about. Well, I guess I can talk about the Norwegian. The Norwegian's not embarrassing. It's just so small though. But I mean, I heard one time that there's this rule in well, not anymore, obviously, but in the South, it was called the one drop rule. And if you had one drop of Negro blood, have any African American blood, although you'd think so with how curly my hair is going to get. I'm going to let my hair grow out, unless I don't. I might not. I might let it get long. I might wake up and go, you know what? I've had enough of this long hair thing. I'm just going to cut it all off. But if it does grow out, I'm telling you, that's why I put all this dippity doo in it and everything, or whatever it is. I guess they used to call it Brill cream. I think, do they still make Brill cream? Brill cream was really greasy though. It was like you had an oil slick in your hair, in your freaking head. Oh God, my head. It's just too. I tell people I have diabetic skin. I don't think it's a fungus though. The reason I have all these scabs is because I scratch myself. And somebody said, "Well, you don't have a fungus or some kind of thing growing in your skin. A lot of people do because they're psychotic. They think that there's something living in their skin like a mite or something, and it's a form of psychosis. It's like a scabby psychosis. You think things are growing in your skin. My skin itches because it's diabetic. And I realize that I have OCD. It's obsessive compulsive. I scratch myself because I'm a little crazy. Maybe more than a little crazy. Here we go, 23 and me. And what's wrong with this computer? It's not doing anything. There we go, 23, me. No, I had and. Okay, 20, so 1, 23, and me. Versus ancestry. I didn't do ancestry. Double curses. My life is going to be such a zero. It's going to be so miserable. Okay, sign in. Which gene could change your DNA powered health journey? Yeah. Everybody in my family is reasonably healthy. I think the whole genetics is a crapshoot. An email with a secure verification code was sent to the email address associated with your. God damn it. What the hell's going on here? Oh, this is great. Now there's something wrong with my internet. And my skin itches. Oh, well, that's a good sign. All these little additives here. Why? Oh, for the love of God. Okay, there we go. There we go. This is good. Okay, it's loading. Oh, God, I hate this computer. I absolutely hate it. I can't do anything. Google, AT&T, net. Now I've got to go to my email. Yahoo. Fifth man contradicts Chiefs fans pal about men's deaths. What did a plane drop out of the sky? All right, here we go. Okay, I'm in. Sort of. This won't load. Oh, 23 and me. You're. Fuck, won't this load? Pardon my French. Oh, I think I got a cold. This is driving me crazy. It takes forever. Please enter this code. Okay, sign in. Okay, there we go. Am I in? Am I in? Okay, ancestry. Here we go. Okay, ancestry composition. View your ancestry composition. We're doing stereotypes, I guess. And I'm 100% European. I'm 100% Northern European. Is that right? What's that 1.5? 0.7. So does that mean I'm not 100% Northern European? French and German, 96.5. Scandinavian, 1.5. Broadly North, what's this 0.7 here? See, is that the one drop rule right there? That 0.7? British and Irish. Scandinavian, 1.5. See, so I'm really white, except for like these little droplets here. All right, so I guess the family rumors that no one was supposed to talk about are true. But I mean, really, you're going to put someone in a concentration camp for 0.7? Maybe they will. I don't know. But okay, German. Let's go. Bavaria. Likely match. Bavaria. Okay, here, Bavaria. And then Rhineland, where's Rhineland-Palatinate? That's number 2. Rhineland-Palatinate. Oh, they're Metz. Okay, here's Metz. Here's Rhineland-Palatinate. And there's Saarbrücken. My part, Saarbrücken. Let's take a look. All tested regions. Current ancestry. That's no good. Well, evidently there are a lot of Jews in Alsace. But you know what I'm saying? 0.7 is like, that's really nothing. That even the Germans wouldn't, 0.7. They're like, just don't mention it to anybody. It's probably not even worth mentioning. I probably shouldn't mention it. It might even be like a statistical error. You know what I mean? Okay, let's do this. Bavaria, French and German. I mean, how much more white bread can you get? All tested, see all tested populations. Likely match. All right, well, North Rhineland-Westphalia, that's up by the Dutch. Bavaria, I think that's where Grandma was from. And my grandfather's family must have been from Rhineland-Palatinate, because that's the closest place to. It is rather close to Metz. They must have wandered across the border or something. Bavaria. What's this North Rhineland-Westphalia place? Is there anything Munster? Okay, what is Rhineland-Palatinate? Are there any big cities there? Where's Dusseldorf? Frankfurt, Heidelberg. What's in Bavaria? Nuremberg, Würzburg, Regensburg. I think I heard there's a concentrate. Ball. Okay, Ball. Nancy Meds. What are those big cities? Utrecht, Den Haag. Where the fuck is Amsterdam? Oh, there's Amsterdam. But we're not from Amsterdam. We're from Utrecht and Arnhem and Zutphen. No, we're from Zutphen. There's Zutphen. I know we're from Zutphen. And the other place we're from isn't even in Germany. It's in Metz. See, this is the thing about like genetics. We're not from Germany. We're from Metz. Although I think my grandmother's family was from Bavaria. Where did that Jew come from? He just snuck in there, didn't he? Don't tell anybody. I don't want to end up in a concentration camp just because I'm 0.7% Jew. It's so embarrassing. All right. I guess I'm just being racist. I don't even get to be a member of the club. It's so low, right? I shouldn't even mention it. It's actually a little bit higher, but I don't think they're allowed to show these things to people. Someone tried to hack in and get it. I don't know about ours, but it's like we are so white, except for that one little thing. I don't really particularly like Germans anyways. The Dutch I could take or leave. I actually like the French. I mean, they're arrogant, they're rude, they're self-absorbed, they're very chauvinistic, they're snotty. And this is the thing. My mom said that when she was there, she saw a lot of young men that looked like me. Brown hair, brown eyes, curly hair. At the time, I was thin. I wasn't always fat. Kind of thin and wiry. She says, "You look like them. You must have gotten all that blood." Everybody used to say I looked like a Jew, curly hair. Everybody thought I was a Jew. Do the French look Jewish? I mean, some of them do. They've got the big nose and the curly hair, and They don't exactly have Aryan features. This is okay. Here we go. Okay. Oh fuck! I got a sore throat. Oh god. Ugh. I'll have to wear a mask. I hate wearing masks. Well, maybe it'll go away. I mean, I've had these like phantom sore throats, especially when I didn't want to go to work. And all I had to say is, I've got a sore throat. And they say, don't come down, don't come down. And I'm not lying. I feel a sore throat in my mouth. But I mean, I never know where they're, okay, occupied city, 6:30. Now that would be a good day. Foreign correspondent, Big Sleep, Alphaville. Foreign correspondent. Oh, okay, I got it here. I can watch it here. If the I've got something wrong with my Fire TV. It just sometimes it'll conk out like I've been watching it too long, and other time it'll just like spin, and other times last night for the first time it just went black, and I couldn't get it to do anything but black. And I think that's the very first time that it ever did that. This is from 1940. People used to dress better back then, and I think they were more dignified. I think in some ways our society's going. Let me go see if I can find that mask. I'm gonna have to wear it tomorrow. It's all covered in dust. Ugh. I should probably get a new one. I've got some somewhere. I just can't remember where I put. I didn't hide them. I just like put them away. Okay, let's do this. I can never remember which way it goes on, and I end up putting it on upside down. Well, this one smells like it's been washed in baby oil or something. What's that stuff you put in your skin? Talcum powder. That's what. See, I hated wearing these things. I don't know if you did, but I just hated it. I hated wearing them. My breath got hot, and you got used to it. But then it's like, oh, no wonder people didn't like wearing these stupid things. They're uncomfortable. My glasses fog up. It's awful. But they saved lives, and then they said they weren't effective, but they did. They did. People are just babies. They don't want to do something, and freedom, freedom. Freedom doesn't mean that you get to speed through red lights and shoot your gun off. See, that's what freedom is to Americans. You can break the speed limit and kill people with your cars, which they do. These mass shootings, and then this culture spreads all over the world. Well, I don't like black people. I'll go to the grocery store and kill some black people. I don't like Jews. I don't like Palestinians. We are so busy hating. That was the thing about the Buddhism. I'm trying to get that out of my head because I get angry. I look at the news and I leave these horrible, horrible comments, and it's like, is that me? I know it's not multiple personality. It is me. I have to accept responsibility for the fact that I cannot, and it's bipolar. I cannot control my emotions, and I become like a different. I mean, if you know anybody that's bipolar, they do. They become different. They seem like they're different people. They really do seem like different people. They can be very nice. I got this scab on my head, and that's not a fungus or bugs eating into my skin. It's just me being nervous. Ooh, put that in the skin box. See, I'm like gold member. Oh, two things I hate in this world. I just can't stand in this world. People that are intolerant of other people's cultures. And the Dutch. What? Dolce Dog? What is this? Oh, God. All right. Enough of this nonsense. But it's just so irritating. It's like this cement barnacle stuck in my head. I wanted to make it smooth. So what I'm trying to, and you'd think the Buddhism would help with that too, but I'm just busy scratching myself like crazy. Maybe I am crazy, but here's the thing: crazy people don't know they're crazy. So what am I? I know there's something wrong. I know I'm crazy, therefore I'm not crazy. If you're aware that there's something wrong, you're just like super neurotic. You know, like people that think, like Woody Allen thought he was dying of cancer. He knew there was something wrong with his brain, but he just didn't know what to do about it. And that's me. I know I shouldn't say these terrible things. I know I shouldn't. I was just thinking about that. I guess I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly Roman Catholic, and there were a number of everybody got along pretty well, except there was Joel Church on the corner, and he was Jewish, and he wasn't a particularly evil kid. Although he did get into mischief, he was obviously his family let him go a little while. But did he break into people's houses and rape their dogs and eat their children? Nah, he just didn't like him because he was a Jew. Stay away from the churches; they're Jews. There was one family that thought that way, and I said, "Well, Joel Church is all right. He's my best friend." And they go, "Well, you're a Protestant. That's even worse." They were Irish Catholics, and they weren't bad people. They were good people. They were just fucking bigots, but they were good neighbors. They didn't like steal or anything. They were very honest people, very honest, very decent people. They just hated anybody that wasn't Catholic. And if there was one kid that I hung around with, and see, this is the thing that's confusing, and they were Roman Catholic. And one day I was saying, "Oh, I hate these people, and I hate those people, and I hate because I watched Combat. You know, we had to hate the communists, and she just, I think they were Polish. I don't know. Their name was. It ended with a ski, and they kept changing it because people made fun of their last names, and they were very self-conscious about it. And the mother said, "It's not right to hate anyone." So I was confused. You had one Catholic family who hated everybody, even other Catholics, and then another family who said it is just not right to hate anyone. So it was like my attitude was, well, and since most of the neighbors were Catholic, and they treated us fine. They treated us fine. They didn't treat us badly at all. Even the ones that hated Protestants were like, "We'll pray for you, even though you're going to hell because you're Protestants." They didn't like people that weren't Catholic. They definitely didn't. And they say things like the Regensburgers were very high strung because that's the way Germans are. That's why they started that horrible war. The Regensburgers? They were very German. They might have been Protestants. I don't know. But most of the neighbors, I think, were Catholic, but not like really Catholic. But it was the '60s, and people were definitely not into hating other white people. It was as long as the niggers didn't move it. I'm sorry, but that was what it's like the last thing you wanted was an African American family moving in. As long as your neighbors were white, even if they were Jews, all white people had to get along because we had a common enemy. It's like with the Muslims, we can't hate Jews, can't hate Catholics. We have a common enemy, the Arab. There always has to be another. Like now, it's the trans people that you have to. Although you know what, they shouldn't be teaching that shit in the schools. They're pushing it on kids. This is the thing. If you want to be trans, I don't get it. I don't think it's going to make you happy. I don't think cutting your dildo off or growing tits is going to make you happy. It really, you're not. I don't think it will. But it's none of my business. What do I know? And the hormones you got to shoot your body up with. I think it's the If you're a butch lesbian woman, just do that. That's what God gave you. It's like me. I know today, if I was growing up, they would have tried to turn me into a girl because I was very effeminate. Maybe I still see. People go up to me and they go, "You're a gay. You're a fag." I don't know what I am. Maybe at one point I was bisexual. I don't know. Maybe curious or whatever. But I like girls, sort of. I just don't know how to approach them. It's just I don't know what I think. I think I'm asexual mostly. It's like I'm not aggressive enough to really be anything. And I don't like when guys get really aggressive. I don't understand how they think that they have a right to do that, and they think that that's being a man, and it's like being like a monkey at the zoo or something. I don't like that, but that's like a stereotype. So what am I? I lived in San Francisco as a joke. At least I thought it was a joke. I liked dressing up in women's clothing. I was very cute. I was very cute. I was a very cute guy, although I thought I was hideous, and I was also a very cute girl. Now I'm just a fat old disgusting man, so I don't know what I am. I think I'd rather just be asexual and leave people alone because I don't want to bother them. And now you approach a woman and get the least bit flirty and they accuse you of trying to rape them. So you know what my response is? Fine, I'll stay in my house and I'll leave you alone. It's just kind of lonely, but I mean, I'm the young girls, like not the millennials even. It's like the young people now just coming into the bars. I mean, they must program them that men are um, the enemy because poor women used to have to put up with aggressive men. That it was just like, well, that's men. Men are that way. Men are assholes. They're not all assholes, but a lot of them are. And you just have to deal with them. You know, find some way to deal with them. Now it's like they get together in a gang and accuse you of being a rapist. Tell them you tell them that they're pretty, and they say, Are you trying to fuck me?" So how gay could I be? When I get drunk, I get very heterosexual, which is weird. I get aggressive. Does that mean I'm a closet? I think maybe I do have multiple personalities, but there's no such thing as multiple personalities. They say that you're like fluid. They say gender fluid. Yeah, one day I came in, I had the whole side of my face was black and blue because I'd fallen, and the bartender looked at me and says, did you get in a fight? And I go, yeah, my girlfriend beat me up. It was awful. There was gender fluid everywhere, and all the feminists were. I think how women are different now, and came over and patted me on the shoulder, and then she thought, well, okay, that's an acceptable joke because I was just trying to be funny, you know. I said I beat my girlfriend up. I didn't have a girlfriend, but I says my girlfriend beat me up. I said, all right, if you want to know the truth, she beat the crap out of me. There was gender fluid everywhere. Everybody laughed. I can be funny. But they liked that. I guess that was a funny joke. I don't get kids now, but that's how you know you're old. You don't understand. Everybody thinks they're gay. It's like people go out of their way to get interracial relationships, which is fine. You want to be in an interracial relationship, fine. It's like, but just don't push that. You see it on television. It's like they're pushing it. That's not natural. Natural isn't like whites with whites and men with women. That's not natural either because you're forcing it. Just let things be. You don't have to promote it in the schools. If someone really feels that they're a different gender, they can deal with that when they get older. And a lot of them regret it. They do it and they go, I don't know how I got talked into it. This guy said I was 40 and I've taken 30 years off my life because the hormones are eating my bones away. There were some girl. She says they lopped my tits off and I just decided I don't want to do this. I don't want a dick. She'll never be able to breastfeed. She might have sterilized herself. They're pushing this shit on kids and they shouldn't. I'm not saying they should discourage people, but I think it's a very, very, very tiny percentage of the population that needs any of this. I think most of these kids that they're trying to transition are just gay. And let them be gay. If they're lesbians, let them find a lesbian. If they're guys and they're attracted to guys, let them be that. You don't need to put them on hormones or puberty blockers. Why are you sterilizing these people? Maybe they want to go to a sperm bank and impregnate a lesbian, They say it's impossible for homosexuals to reproduce. That's not true. We used to reproduce all the time in San Francisco. A gay guy either would go to a sperm bank because two lesbians wanted a kid, or he'd hold his nose and hop on top of her and do it the old-fashioned way. I guess you can, although there was one guy that says he just as an experiment, he tried to do it with a girl, and he couldn't even get it up because it didn't do anything for him. So I mean, that's how you know that you're gay is when you're in a room with a naked girl who's trying to do it with you, and you just and she's attractive, and you just Jesus fucking Christ! Oh, why is my life so? Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. These glasses make me blind. Although I don't. This is my attempt at anonymity. Where the hell did this come from? I should probably throw these things away. 36 minutes. See, I can never do a short one. Oh. I go on for 5 minutes and I end up. Ah. What is that? I'm going to disconnect everything here. I don't like little pieces of paper on the floor. They want me to keep this place clean. What is this? Poll worker. Evidently, I have a job. I work for the government, and I work for a university. Oh, she's a married woman. But I'll save that anyways. She's a religious fanatic, so I mean, there's Christians and there's Christians. I don't like people that say you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. If you're like a liberal Christian, and it's like, yeah, I'm a religion. I really believe, and they say this is wrong, that if you're a good person and you do good things and you treat people decently in your life and you're kind, that's enough to get you into heaven. The idea that what did the Pope say? It's easier for a good atheist to get into heaven than a bad Christian. This whole thing is as long as you believe in Jesus Christ, you're going to heaven. That is the stupidest. Do you really think that God cares? You're busy out slaughtering a city, murdering people, engaged in human trafficking and selling drugs. But at the end of it all, Hail Mary, please forgive me. And God goes, yeah, we'll let you in the club. You asked me forgiveness. It wasn't very sincere. You made no attempt to even repent, but fuck it. You gave money to the church. Seriously? So, anyways, it's not right. It's like those two Catholic families on my street. One saying, "Well, you're worse than the Jews. You're a Protestant." I was raised Protestant. I guess that's why I hung out with Joel Church, because he was Jewish. We acted alike and we thought alike, and I think he knew the secret too. And he was all right. There's nothing wrong with Joel Church. He was a little different though. It's like we all went down there because his dad had Playboys in the basement. They were a little bit more liberal than the rest. Everybody else was very middle class. But he wasn't a bad guy. He didn't steal. Although I think he smoked pot later when he was a teenager. He went through that rebellious thing. I saw him later. But he wasn't a bad guy. My mom didn't like him because one time at my birthday party, I got a saw. Someone gave me a saw. And Joel decided that he was going to start sawing all her best furniture. But it wasn't because he was Jewish. It was because he was destroying things in the house. He's just a kid. Kids do shit like that. It's not because he was a Jewish kid. It's because he was a kid. So me and Joel hung out. I'm pretty sure Scotty Schmatter was a Protestant. I don't know if I'm even getting these names right because it was 60 years ago. And if do I get sued for using these? Hopefully I'm getting these names wrong. Pretty sure the Schmauters were Protestants. But I could be wrong. They had lots of kids. The Nows, Kenny Now, and Scotty Schmauter. The Cromlings. There are a lot of names I'm getting wrong, and there are a lot of names that hopefully I'm getting wrong. It's funny, it was 60 years ago, and I can still remember, I can see them. It was a very middle class place. I'm not going to mention the name of the street because, yeah, that might be a little. It was a nice place to grow up. There were trees, and then we had to move because my mom grew up poor, and she wanted to live in a big house to impress everybody, which was nice. I live in the big McMansion house that my mom wanted because she grew up poor and just wanted everybody. Well, that was the American dream back then. Is you didn't demand housing, you worked really hard and you bought it. And the government did things like the government did do things for us. My dad during the Depression had very bad eyesight, and I don't think they could afford to take him to the eye doctor. So one day, some government agency came into the schools and they tested everybody's eyes, and they found out that he needed glasses and gave him a pair that kind of improved his eyesight. And he started getting better grades. And I guess his parents decided, well, he's got bad eyesight, and this is an important thing that he have good eyesight. And some kids didn't have shoes, and I think the government gave the kids shoes. Things I don't think they had meal programs, but they did stuff to make sure people didn't starve, so that they could work. It wasn't to take care of them. It was so my dad had glasses, so he could study in school. He worked in a steel mill. He had trouble paying for college when he got the GI Bill for the Korean War. He got honorably discharged, although his eyes were so bad they didn't send him to Korea. But he was a good sergeant, and he guarded the general and everything. So it was like he was honorably discharged, and he was a good loyal soldier. I mean, guarding. He did like funerals and stuff. Like they'd come home and they'd go and tell people that we're very sorry, but your husband, your son, your father died in the war. And he said that could be sad because the kids would start crying. And then he did so good at that they got him to guard a general. And he told me, he says, if you fell asleep, they'd shoot you. I don't think they did. Did they? But I mean, theoretically, they could shoot you. So he stayed awake. And they liked that. He was very alert and did what they told him. And he was a good soldier. And I guess even if you weren't that great of a soldier, they still gave you the GI Bill. He got his business degree and was an editor for a magazine. I think he was either executive editor or vice president of a company, a publishing company, trade magazine. I won't mention it because I guess someone could find. I mean, you're going to find out who I really am anyway. So, but I'm not going to make it easy for you. It's not right to hate anyone, but life is my personality is kind of like those two Catholic families I used to know. One, they weren't really bad people. They're like Mel Gibson. They were morally people, but they definitely did not like the Jew down in the corner. He was like some kind of a disease. He was my best friend. And they said, well, go ahead and hang out with him. You're a Protestant, so you're even worse. You're both going to hell. Which is not a nice thing to tell somebody, but I just figured that was an odd. I wasn't like I wasn't deeply offended. I knew they were wrong. I was just like, well, that's you get too religious. That's what you get. You get hateful. And then there was the other nice family. This kid had definite personality. He was just an angry kid. He seemed to me. I even know back then he was like brooding. He seemed very introspective. He seemed very smart. He was a good friend of mine too. But he could be violent, and because he had this anger in him. He had this chip on his shoulder, and I could never figure out really why. Oh, well, Ron Kleiss wasn't Catholic because he went to the Church of the Bethany Covenant with me. I was an ass. As a kid, I was a real ass. I tried to fit in by aping people's behavior, and I ended up being just a complete colossal ass. I wonder whatever happened to Ron Kleiss. He was a born-again Christian. He had long hair and he looked like Jesus, and he told his parents, either you let me have the long hair or I'm going to do drugs. And they said, long hair, just stay away from the drugs. And so he was very religious, and he wore the long hair. And people used to make fun of him because he'd pray in the cafeteria. He wouldn't make you pray, though. He wouldn't make you pray. And that's if you want to pray in school, fine. Just don't make people pray. Maybe give them a silent minute, and if they want to pray during the silent minute, that's fine. Yeah, Ron Kleist never made people be. And Don Hankey, he was a Lutheran. He was a real zealot. He wanted a theocracy, which is kind of funny because I guess people don't realize a lot of these Nordic welfare states were theocracies. The official religion was Lutheranism, and they were very that's why they became a lot more socialistic because it wasn't what did that person do wrong, it's what did we do wrong. We as a community have a responsibility to take care of everyone, and that seems very Marxist too. We're more Calvinist, and it's like if you're poor, God wants you to be poor. If you're rich, God is showing you favor. You've lived a good life, and God wants you to be rich. And in a Lutheran societies, it's more wealth is more of a sin. It's like, okay, you did well, but so what? What are you doing for the community? It's not like everybody has to be equal, but the wealth has to be spread around because it's a more collectivist form of Protestantism. That's why these societies seem a lot more. They seem almost socialist to us because they have a little. I mean, it's not, and they do have individual liberty. It's not like everybody has to do something. And they've got billionaires and everything. It's just you're not supposed to brag about it because you're supposed to work for the. It's more of a common good society, and we're more individualistic. And I don't know. I think in many ways these Lutheran theocratic theocracies have a certain advantage over our society. Although they let all those Muslims into Sweden, and that's what Sweden used to be the safest society in the world, and now it's one of the most violent in Europe. And it's because I'm just going to say it, and there's no getting around it. They let in. Some people say, well, they didn't integrate these immigrants properly. They let them in. They all live in this community. They didn't get jobs. They didn't learn the language. They're all Islamic fundamentalists or drug dealers now, and it's just a violent mess. And so now they're stopping the immigration. They're deporting a lot of them. Even this, like in Denmark, the Social Democrats were going to lose to a far right party, and they says, well, we're all still for welfare and gender equality and gay rights and workers' rights and all the liberal left things that we stand for, but no more immigration. They basically adopted the far right immigration policy, and they won because that was the one thing they had to sacrifice. People did not want their country flooded with these I mean, most immigrants aren't criminals, but even if if you've got 100 people and 2 or 3 of them are drug dealers and rapists or bomb throwing religious fanatics, that's enough to infect you. They're disease. It's that 3% that ruin it for everybody. It's the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Harvey Weinsteins and the Bernie Madoffs and the Roman Polanskis and David Berkowitz, and everybody thinks Jews are rapist pedophiles, or the Rothschilds. Are the Rothschilds really bad about anything? I know they did contribute to the Zionist cause. That, in my mind, that was a mistake. But I don't think the Rothschilds were necessarily evil people. People just resented their wealth. All it takes is 3 or 4 out of 100, or just 1 out of 1,000, and you're all painted with the same brush. Like I grew up around Italians. I might have known a few people that had some connections. They didn't talk about them. But the vast majority of Italians have nothing to do with the mafia and are perfectly decent, honest people. In fact, in many ways, they strike me as maybe a little more honest. So that's, and the Irish have a mob, and the Russian Jews have a mob, but everybody thinks that the mafia is just all Italian, and that's not true. I used to work for the Irish mob. And the IRA. And it was funny because the IRA is supposed to be left-wing. These were not left-wing people. So that whole horseshoe ideology thing is like, yeah, there's a certain amount of validity to everybody thinks that fascism and communism are polar opposites, but I know there's not just a pipeline between libertarianism and fascism. There's a pipeline between socialism and fascism. There's a pipeline. There's a pipeline. There was a saying: a conservative is a liberal who's been mugged, and a conservative is a liberal is a conservative that lost his job, and a conservative is a liberal that was mugged. All that has to happen in your life is something like that. Like, I'll give you an example. It's going to make people a lot more conservative. Like they say, the Jews are very liberal. This whole thing going on in Israel, and people dumping on the Jews, and a lot of liberal Jews do support Israel. That's making them a lot more right wing. You got people living in these sanctuary cities, and you got this guy in Texas busing all these immigrants to their city, and they cause crime, and they live in the streets, and they take money away from poverty programs in their community. They're not. That's going to turn them conservative. All right, that will. That is going to turn them into conservatives. Here we go. So, anyways, I am more. Have I been writing any more on my? Oh yeah, I did start one new story. I'm still working on the story. That was one story. I did start the zombie. What was it? The zombie vampire yuppies. The zombie vampire yuppies from Mars. That was one story I started. Playground Earth. All expenses paid. What happened to the zombie yuppies from Mars, though? That's got to. Oh, I know what I did with that. I started that on a piece of paper. Playground Earth, all expenses paid, and then the aliens next door. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, and I started one, the open mic in hell, where I go to hell, and I've got and it's stand up. Okay, but I thought I started. What about the zombie vampires from Mars? What happened to that? Oh, here it is. The zombie yuppie vampires from Mars. It's right there. Okay. Oh, I even had pictures. How did I do that? All right. So yeah, I'm still doing that. Oh, okay. I get a little confused sometimes. Although some of these ideas are very good, it's just they're all over the place now. Yet, Playground Earth is just kind of like an extension of all expenses paid. Now, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Okay, this is Playground Earth. Now, where was all expenses paid? Oh, here it is. All expenses paid is down here. What did I write about that? Okay, this is like a very rough. He's been a pest at work. Demanding vacation time. You want vacation time? I'll give you vacation time. Anyways, this is just to say, and I'm tired of saying sorry. I'm really not sorry because when I write those things, I really mean them. And then I become a different. I don't become a different person. I calm down. There's no such thing as a multi personality. It's all me. But I feel I look at it and I go, was that me that wrote that? Was that even me? Am I that horrible person? And then I feel I'm not that person. You hear people say this, I'm not that person, and you think they're just trying to squeeze out of it. When I get angry, I'm a different person. I don't know how you are, and I'm aware of it afterwards that I did it, but it's like I calm down and I go, like the Incredible Hulk or something. I think that's where we get these, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. People get moods, you know? And now I'm not in a mood, and I want to say, I'm not going to even look at the news because the news makes me so angry. And here's, I think, the thing, because my family did used to hide Jews, and people accuse me, think that I'm Jewish, and they kind of treated me bad. Of course, I've been treated bad by Jews because they think I'm German. How German do I look? Look at this hair. It's like I have to spend all afternoon once I get this. You have no idea. Ow, ow, ow. What is stuck? Things get stuck in my hair. It's very curly. Is that a German thing to have curly hair? I don't think so. Although I've got a nice Dutch nose. The Dutch people in my family gave me a nice nose. But I got brown eyes and brown hair. Do the Germans have blonde hair and blue eyes? Because I don't. Some people in my family do. My grandmother, who looked like, did she look like Lauren Bacall? She had blonde hair and blue eyes. She looked very German. She did. She looked very, very German. Here, I'm going to take a look. Here's my grandfather, and he's more dark. Although I remember as being darker than this, but he was definitely not blonde hair and blue eyes. And God, did he have a schnoz on him? Yeah, see that's what they call a Roman nose right there. And that's black hair. Is it curly? It's a little curly. She had curly hair. What do you call it? Dishwater blonde? But yeah, blonde hair, blue eyes. What do they call it? Dirty blonde? Or because it's not like blonde blonde. It's kind of like light brown hair. God damn it. Oh, and their connection lost. I'm gonna need connected. There we go. We're almost at an hour. It's not right to hate anybody. And it's just like the Jews were persecuted in Europe horribly, the pogroms, the Holocaust. They came right out of those camps and they went to Israel. And Rabbi Jacob Shapiro and Nebury Karta say that the Torah says that the Jewish people are forbidden a state till the Messiah returns and allows them to have it, because the Torah says that because the Jewish people rebelled against God's word, that their punishment, and what did Shapiro say? If my punishment is to live in New York, I can think of a lot worse punishments. All right, here's my punishment. I get to live in Brooklyn. Could be worse. It could be New Jersey. Jewish humor. I like Jewish humor. I like humor. Certain ethnic groups do not have humor, like the Germans don't really. I don't know if the Dutch have any humor. The French have like farce, which is like, it's like, is it slapstick? Like, Faulty Towers is evidently a French farce like thing. Romance with a double bass. See, these things just pop into my head. Connie Booth was so naked in that. She had a nice body, although she's kind of got banana tits. I'm sorry, Connie. She's like an old. Alexa, how old is Connie Booth? She's like a really old woman now. Very dignified, though. She's like Helen Mirren. She's very dignified. See, she still looks good. The old girl still looks good. She took care of herself. Connie Booth. Oh, is she a pretty woman? There she was. Just so pretty. I guess she's from Chicago. Oh, yeah, look at her. Look at those. Right through, yeah. How old is Connie Booth? 1940. Oh, shit, she's 80. '83. Oh, Jesus. She's too old to be lusted after. I shouldn't have said that. That's being ageist. I'd have appreciated learning about it from him rather than the papers. John Cleese's ex-wife and co-writer claims the Star didn't tell her about his Faulty Towers reboot. Okay. Connie Booth naked. Sorry, Connie. You did have a nice body, though. I know I'm being sexist, but it's like, how gay could I be? I want to look at pictures of Connie Booth naked. God. Oh, she had such a nice body. What's she doing there? Connie Booth never did porn. That's not her. Her tips were a little bit saggy, but I mean, you should see mine. Who am I to judge? Oh my God, she was beautiful. Look at that. Oh my God. Just to sniff that woman's underwear. I mean, my God. Gorgeous body. Absolutely gorgeous. I think as a child I used to manipulate. Shut up, Bill. Yeah, I used to jerk off to naked pictures of Connie Booth. What a pretty girl. What a pretty girl. That's not her. Someone put her head on a. Oh my God. Women have to put up with this too. We're pigs. We're pigs. I know we're pigs. I admit it. I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, faulty towers, faulty titties. All right. All right, that's enough of that nonsense. What a beautiful woman. Oh God. So how old was she? How old would she have been? She was in her 30s, late 30s. She looked like she was in her 20s. See, if you take care of yourself, you don't look that old. I knew. I've seen women that are in their 50s, and they if you would have told me that they were in their 20s, I'd have gone, nah, really? I would have thought 30s. But if you take care of yourself, like Gwen Stefani, she obviously takes care of herself. Poor Madonna. I mean, I don't know what Madonna's doing. You can age gracefully. Madonna is not doing that. And a lot of women do age gracefully. Um, Pat Benatar, for example, is a very graceful ager. She sings like the torch ballad. She doesn't get dressed up in spandex because she realizes, do you want to see me in spandex? I'm a guy. You don't want to see me naked. I don't even like to look at me naked. When I'm in the shower, I close my eyes and go, God, please. I'll turn to stone if I have to look at this hideous body. It's 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 embarrassing, and it's disgusting how it's like what happens when you get old and gravity. But there are people my age, men, who have taken care of themselves and still look good, and same with women. So you can take care of yourself. But the thing is, if you don't expect everybody to go, oh, you're just fine the way you are. No, you didn't take care of yourself. You know what? You don't deserve that praise. You didn't take the effort. Now you look like a blob of vanilla or whatever color you are pudding, just sitting there flowing all over that chair in your 600-pound life. I watch the 600-pound life. You got people that got these sacks. They're like the blob. They've got these things hanging off of them, a flab. The fat doesn't even have a place to go on the body anymore. I think at some point there ought to be a law. You reach 400 pounds, you get arrested and stuck in a room, and that people just stop feeding you, or you don't get health care anymore, insurance. I think everybody deserves health care, but there are certain things. If you get too fat, if you smoke, I mean,
Get ready for your poll of the day.
we got a
What
poll.
is your favorite local activity? Farmer's market, dog park, thrifting, picnic.
Farmers market.
Thanks for voting. Here's the leaderboard. Your choice. Farmer's market, 32.6%. Picnic, 29.9%. Dog park, 21.5%. Thrifting, 16%. Thanks for taking the poll.
Farmers markets are fun. Anyways, it's not right to hate anybody, but the thing is, the Jews came right out of the concentration camps, and now maybe it's. I think you know what I'm just going to say. I think it is genocide. 90% of the people have been kicked from their homes. The majority of them are starving, and they're trying to ethnically cleanse them from land they lived on for 2,000 years. It's what we did to the Native Americans. Should we give the land back? Who are we going to give the land back to? No, we probably should give them some kind of reparations. This is the thing about reparations for black people, though. At the time, there should have been reparations. But there's so much intermingling now. It's like there were black people that owned slaves. There were white people that were indentured servants. I never owned slaves. My great grandfather fought in the Civil War to free. Although I know he was a bigot, but he went down to Atlanta and helped burn it to the ground. You know, German people never owned a lot of slaves. They didn't. They weren't like they were a people that were very much into doing things for themselves. And surprisingly enough, they weren't really racist, um, like the English. The English are very bigoted, but I don't know why that is. But they never owned slaves or whatever. They did things for themselves. But I got to pay reparations because I'm just like all white people aren't the same, and to paint us with the same brush, that's a real bigotry right there. And I think reparations can be made in different ways, not to a particular race because that's racist. But if you're poor and like you need help with food and stuff, I think the aid should be geared toward education, and it should be based on performance. If you're smart and you make an effort, it's like, should everybody go to school for free? Well, no, because some kids, it's just like you're paying them to go to school. I don't think that's good. Should everybody get free health care? Well, no, and here's why. If you're middle class and you can afford to pay for your own health care, here's a scenario, my scenario, and you answer this. Say the government's going to tax you at a rate of 50%. Some countries do on a middle class income. And everybody gets free health care. Everybody gets a housing subsidy. Subsidy, subsidy, subsidy. So the government takes money from you and then gives it back to you. Why? And then there's another society where they tax you at a rate of about 25, 30, 35. It's considerably lower. They let you keep your money. You buy your own health care, which is like regulated, but you buy it out, you pay for it out of your own pocket. You buy your own housing. If you need help with education, your kid can work hard and get a scholarship. And the welfare state is geared toward the poor. If you're so poor, you're doing so poorly that you can't afford health care, the government, it's like in Ireland. Ireland isn't known. I asked them, is Ireland a welfare state? They said it's about in the middle. It's not like really skimpy, but it's not like really generous either. This is the way they do it there. If you're old or you're young, in Holland, I think, if you're under 18, your health care is free, no charge. Once you're 18, you're on your own. It's your responsibility. You're an adult. You can pay for your health care. But kids, it's free. So in Ireland, it's that way too. If you're young, if you're old, it's free. If you're under a certain income, if you're like low income, it's free. Everybody else has to pay a certain fee, like $500, $1,000 a year, maybe more, maybe less, depending on your income. Or you don't pay into the government. It's like in Australia they do this too. You get Medicare, but when you get to be about 30, you have to buy a private supplement because the Medicare system isn't going to pay for everything. So either you pay out of pocket, or you get a private supplement from like Humana or Blue Cross, or what's another company? I just got an ad from one. Was it Humana? Maybe it is. I have United. It's very good. William Sands endorses United. All right. So, anyways, it's actually Zen's. Very German. German. Boy, those Germans get around. I have an uncle thought he was German. He found his family was from the Ukraine. With me, he said, I got news for you because he was doing the family thing. He says, are you sitting down. I says, "Why am I Ukrainian too? I don't care." And he says, "No, it's much worse than being Ukrainian." I says, "You're French." I said, "Well, Uncle Dennis, I actually like the French." And it's like people look at me like, now we know he's crazy. Why would anybody like the French? I admire them. I admire their snotty arrogance. I admire the fact that they're rude to everybody, that they kicked us out of France, that the soil of France was sacred. We didn't want American troops. We can defend ourselves. It was a matter. You ever see those Bastille Day? They got their army. I was there, man. That's a big army. That's a big, big ass fucking army the French have. I would not want to invade that country. They were humiliated once and they're not going to let it happen again. They have got a big ass army. And they at least they used to make their own tanks. I think finally they wore off. They're buying their rifles from the Germans. Although they made the FAMAS, which I wish they would have stuck with, but I guess there's no getting around it. The FAMAS was not a terrible rifle, but the M4 platform, which almost everybody uses now, is just a better platform. But they decided they weren't going to make it themselves. They should, though. They should. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. You want to depend on the Germans for your rifles? All right, well, do what you want. They seem to be pals now. But see, that's the thing. It's not right to hate anybody. It's not the right to hate on anyone. Even though the Jews came straight out of the camps, and then they went down there and they referred to the Arabs as animals and cockroaches. And they basically, if you really read what they did, they weren't nice. They weren't like, "Oh, can we share the land?" It was like, "We're here. Get off of our fucking land. This is our country now. You can go live in Egypt." You even hear them say it. They even admit it. "Oh, well, why can't they go live in Jordan? This is our land." Like, it is their land. You were gone for 2,000 years, and you're kicking people off the land, and it just seems rather hypocritical. Like, it's like, "Oh, the Holocaust. Yeah, well, the Holocaust was bad. But it happens to the Armenians. It happened in Ukraine. It happened in a holiday in Cambodia. It really is a footnote in history because during the 30 Years' War, 1/3 of the population of Germany we exterminated the Native Americans. Millions, tens of millions of African Americans were killed in the slave trade. I'm not paying for that. I was not part of the slave trade. I had nothing to do with it. When my family came here, did we steal land from the Indians? I think it was already stolen, but we went out and hiked out in the woods and made our own city with our own bare hands. We did that on our own. We didn't even hire other white people to do it for us. We did it with our own sweat and blood. And I don't think Germans had anything to do with the slave trade at all. And I'm getting a little sick of this guilt about reparations for the Holocaust, and I'll tell you why. Look what you're doing to the Palestinians, and that really makes me angry. And then you call it self-defense. When Germany invaded Poland, they faked it, and they said the Poles had attacked them. And I'm telling you another thing. I really have questions about this whole thing. Women were raped, and I'm sure some of that happened, and people were burned alive. Babies were thrown in ovens. A lot of those burnt bodies were tanks and helicopters of the IDF collateral damage, and they're keeping a lot of that quiet. We don't really know I'm not saying for sure that it didn't happen, but there are legitimate questions on some of these stories we hear. Because like in the Holocaust, they turned Jews into soap. That actually didn't happen. The lampshade thing, I think, is true. And the Holocaust happened, and it was very terrible, blah, blah, blah. But Jesus Christ, if you look at the history of humanity, like I'll give you an example. When the Romans invaded Gaul in 56 BC, they enslaved 1/3 of the population. They exterminated 1/3 of the population, and the 1/3 they left on the land said, "You're now Roman citizens, and if you don't behave, you're going to end up like either slaves or just wiped out." So the whole genocide thing, it's been going on forever. Read Steven Pinker's Better Angels of Our Nature. Before the advent of the modern nation state or any sort of government, People like lived in little hunter-gatherer tribes. One tribe would wipe the other tribe out, and it's like if you look at the old archaeology, the old bones from 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. 1/3 of them have like an arrow in them, or their skull was crushed in. 1/3 of all humanity died from violence. They died from violence or famine or disease. Life without government is not is like Hobbes said, nasty, brutish, and short. Kind of like humanity. We're all Northern Ireland, Rwanda, Bosnia, you know, put a place on the globe. Cambodia was just basically people eating, basically a culture pushing in on itself. Vietnam and China went to war, and there's no religion involved with that. Humanity is a story of what's going on in the Middle East. I mean, one group gets the upper hand and just starts wiping the other group out. It's like the story: a guy gets yelled at work. He comes home, he slaps his wife. The wife beats the kids. The kid goes and kicks the dog. And that's kind of what's going on here. There really aren't any good guys or bad guys. It's not like the Jews are like the most evil people in the world. Jews are just people. They're not chosen people. They're just people, and they're acting like people. They were persecuted. They go, look, we're persecuted. And everybody does this. I mean, the Irish don't do it a lot, but with if you, I work with them that talk about how bad the English were and how persecuted they were. Although you don't see them. The thing about the Irish that I admire is they don't demand reparations. They don't have their hands out. They says, just get the fuck out of our country and let us handle our own affairs. And the English actually thought this. Oh, the Irish. They used to call the Irish the niggers of Europe. The Irish are children. We have to take care of them. They're not capable of taking care of themselves. Well, look at that. Let them run their own country, and now it's one of the wealthiest countries. Although, here's the thing: if you look at the net income of GDP per capita of Ireland, double that of the Netherlands. But if you look at how much the average worker makes, or how much the median net worth of people is, it's actually a little higher in the Netherlands because you've got corporations that just have their money sitting in there. The average person isn't. But I mean, they're not poor anymore. But the average person certainly isn't rich. If you look at median wealth or median income, how much the average worker makes. The Netherlands and Ireland are about the same, even though Ireland has a much higher GDP per capita. It's because the banks the money's just sitting there. Of course, the Dutch do that too thing, the double Dutch Irish sandwich, where you can put your money in a Dutch bank and not pay taxes if you're from Ireland or you can move your money around, and there are ways to get around the high taxes in the Netherlands. So I don't know if it is so much anymore, but it was the Dutch were kind of a tax haven because they were trying to do what the Irish were doing. The Irish were making all this money. Why can't they? But there are a lot of countries like the United States. I know I'm doing it, but so what? The United States and Switzerland that have lots of money sitting at the very top pinnacle. The Swiss have money in banks, and the Americans, we have a upper middle class that's like an oligarchy, and everybody else is just struggling to get by. Our median net worth is actually the countries with the highest median net worth are like Australia and Belgium and Iceland. Our middle class is not as wealthy, or even say as the Canadians. The Canadians have a more equitable. The median net worth is more. Now, if you look at average net worth, the United States has one of the highest because you take the whole net worth of the country and you divide it by the number of people, as if each person got an equal share, and people don't. There's some people. There's such a disparity of wealth in the United States. Like we'll compare it to Canada. In Canada, the GDP per capita and the net wealth is a lot lower. But if you look at how much the average, not the average, but the median, when I say averages, I'm talking about, you look at what their middle class has. Their middle class is actually wealthier than our middle class. Not the upper middle class, but what passes as a middle class now, which really isn't a middle class anymore. They're poor. The Canadian middle class is larger and is worth more than ours because our wealth is so skewed. Now, I'm not saying that means socialism is good, but there are different ways to work capitalism. And what's going on in the Middle East is nothing unique about the Jews being liars or deceptive or sneaky or mean. They're just doing what all people do. The Germans did it too. I mean, if you look at the propaganda that how they were getting World War II was them getting revenge for World War I. They lost, they were humiliated, and they were going to pay the world back for the way that they were treated. Persecution complex. Every religion does it. Every ethnicity does it. We do it. Oh, everybody's taking advantage of us. We pay for everybody else's military. Listen to me about that, boyo. If we fold out of NATO and we leave them to their own devices and we isolate ourselves, the world's going to go south really quick. And it's not just going to hurt the Europeans, it's going to hurt us. Because we're not going to, we do a lot of trade. We depend on the Europeans for trade and things. You say we don't, but trust me, you do away with NATO. NATO's kind of in our rational self-interest. This war in Ukraine, it's going on forever. I don't know what the solution is there. I'm just going to say it so you know. I'm going to say it as nicely as I can. We've got to end all aid to Israel. And I'm not saying this because I want the state of Israel to be destroyed. I think ideally, Israel could go back to its 1947 borders, and they could share Palestinians get half and the Israelis get half. That would be ideal, but that's crazy because it's not going to happen. Because the Palestinians are going to try to wipe out the Jews. That they don't get along, and it's like a lot of people. It's like the Belgians and the French. It's little known, but they hate each other. They've managed not to kill each other though, and they just don't like each other. Or the Protestants and the Catholics in Northern Ireland, they were busy trying to kill each other, but they signed the Belfast Accord. Maybe something like that can be done. And now they're more Catholics than Protestants. Maybe Northern Ireland can go back to being part of Ireland. And as someone who was raised Dutch Protestant, I would just say, good. Ireland belongs to the Irish. That whole thing wasn't there some Dutch person involved in the Boyne? Yeah. Because they had a Catholic king and they didn't like it, so they invited the Dutch to come over and invade. But that was so long ago. That's why they have the orange and the flag. That's 300 years ago. It's time to forget all that bullshit. It really is. It's like with the Jews. That was your land 2,000 years ago. Now, are the Jews going to pack up and move back to Long Island and just say, we're sorry, we never should have, this is a bad idea, we're just going to pack up and go home? Or this idea where there's no more apartheid and Israel won't be a state for the Jews, it will be a state for the people that live there and everybody will get along. Fat chance of that happening either. So what's the solution? Do we let Netanyahu ethnically cleanse it? No, we don't. What we do is say, you know what? We've been paying blood money to you for the past 80 years over our guilt of the Holocaust, which was a bad idea because now everybody wants to do it. Your reparations were, you know what, you survived. That's your reparations. You survived and we said that we're sorry. I mean, maybe for 5 years the Germans could have given reparations. They're still freaking giving reparations for that thing, which is, I don't see how that can be justified. Everybody should just stop giving money to Israel. Israel's a wealthy country. They're perfectly capable of defending themselves. We don't sell them arms. They can buy them from the French or the Soviets, or they can make their own. And let's see how aggressive they are. I think I don't think that Israel, the Jews, will be wiped out. I think what they'll be forced to do is actually and sincerely, for the first time, make an honest effort to negotiate with Fatah. I think Hamas I've read this and I believe it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Netanyahu has even said, look, we want Hamas. Hamas is bad. Hamas is somebody we can point to and go, look, we can't negotiate with these people. They want us dead. And this whole thing that happened on October 7th, you can't tell me that an army that is as proficient as the Israeli army at least was at one time, that wasn't allowed to happen. That was kind of orchestrated. And they were willing to sacrifice the hippies on those kibbutzes because they're not from Netanyahu anyways. So that Netanyahu would go, look, I've got an excuse to just ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians from our land. This is a conspiracy, and I no hatred, because like I said, look what the Germans did with the Poles. Oh, the poor Irish. You know what? I used to do things for the IRA, and I make no apologize. That was kind of like my penance. The English were there for 700 years. Well, it's actually the Normans. The Pope gave England Ireland because it was before the Reformation, and the Normans were in charge of the French Normans, or the Viking French Normans, were in charge of England. They invaded, and they basically, England was a colony of France, and the Normans were very loyal to the Pope, and the church in Rome and the church in Ireland were kind of competing. They were different versions of Catholicism, and the church in Rome didn't like that. So it said to the Anglo-Normans, you know what? You want Ireland, it's yours. Doesn't make it right, but I'm saying it's not just a Protestant thing. The poor Irish have been screwed over by the English, and it's genocide, famine, genocide, slavery for so long. Although you can, like I said, you can come across some really bigoted Irish people, but it's not all of them. It's like you can't stereotype everyone and say that they're all like that. What I'm saying is every ethnic group has its foibles. It has its strength. It has its good cooking. It has its mafia. Every ethnic group has a mafia. You could say WASPs don't have a mafia. You ever hear of the Hells Angels? Or the Nazis? The Nazis were just a bunch of thugs. That was organized crime, for God's sakes. You want to know organized criminal group in Northern Anglo-Saxon society? Look at Oswald Mosley's Union of Fascists, or look at the Nazi Party. That was a criminal organization. They went all over Europe and stole all the good artwork. You can see movies about that. They were the worst. They were the absolute worst. So that was their organized crime. We all do it. We're all a bunch of crazy monkeys, like that scene from 2001: Space Odysseys. You know, the monkeys at the watering hole beating each other with stones. That's just it. One group of monkeys attacking another group of monkeys. It's nothing that makes Jews particularly evil or Palestinian. It's a fallacy. It's the myth of the moral supremacy of the oppressed. You want proof of that? Look at Hamas. Hamas are not nice people. They are not nice, and the Palestinian terrorists, they did some very not nice things to the Jews. Were they instigated? I mean, Gaza is basically the same thing as a Warsaw ghetto. It's hard to take sides, and that's basically what I say we do. We don't take sides. We stop giving money to Israel, and it's like I heard someone say, we just stay out of their business. Let them settle it, but we don't pay for it. It's like we don't approve of it. It's like, you know what? Stay out of it. Stay out of it. And here's another thing I'm saying is I don't know how anybody can look at what Israel is doing to the Palestinians and say, oh, well, they deserve it. No one deserves that. Oh, well, they support Hamas. Stop giving me fucking excuses. That's what they did with the Jews. Oh, they're all communists. They gave us communism. They deserve to be exterminated like rats. The Rothschilds, Jeffrey Epstein. Stop it. No one deserves that. The little innocent kids being blown to bits. They're starving. They have no place to live. Nobody fucking deserves that. See, now I'm getting angry. Serenity now. Serenity down. Serenity down. That's not Buddhism. That's George Costanza. But please, please, I'm just going to say this, my last thing, and I've said it before, and I'm trying to be in a moment of lucidity, and I'm saying this not for the benefit of the Palestinians, but this is totally out of, if Israel and the Jewish people that support Israel want some good advice from someone who doesn't support Israel, but God is my witness. May God strike me dead with a heart attack if this isn't true. I wish no ill will. I don't want some mass slaughter of Jews. I do not want that. That would make me feel bad. No one deserves that. Okay? But I see that coming if you keep doing what you're doing. The whole world's going to turn against you. Now, here's some advice for your own benefit, not even taking into consideration I don't even know why. I'm not an open. I'm kind of bigoted about a lot of things, but I see those poor people in the Gaza suffering, and it does something to my heart. It makes me feel so bad for them that I'm paying for that. I fucked myself by taking a lot of my assets, and I don't even know if that was legal. And I don't mind paying taxes. I don't mind it. I didn't work for the money anyways. It's not really my money, but I mean, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to give it away. But I paid capital gains tax. Like, I don't think it was in the 20th bracket at any time. Although I lost so much in crypto. Oh, God, I'm such an idiot. Lost it all in crypto. And that's another thing. Who was that Friedberg guy that ripped all the people off? At least Madoff tried to pay him back. Shyster. Serenity now. Serenity now. But everybody does that. I mean, it's not like it's any particular group. Oh, I was giving you advice. Yeah. It's not in your rational self-interest to ethnically cleanse the West Bank or Gaza. This is not going to turn out well for you. You're going to turn the whole world against you. It's like when the world found out that the Germans did the Holocaust. Most people were disgusted, even bigoted. I knew a girl whose father was from Wales who was a gambler in West Virginia, and he fought in World War II. I don't know if it was before or after he came here. And trust me, these were bigoted people. He went into those camps, Buchenwald and Auschwitz, and they were so horrified by what they saw. They felt so bad. It was hell. Who would do that to a dog? Who would do that to their worst enemy? They rounded up all the German guards and they just shot them. And that was probably letting them off. He says, and they felt that was just letting them off easy. Who in their right mind would do that to their worst enemy? That's just wrong. And that's kind of what the Jews are doing I see Jews doing to the Palestinians. Good, bad, supporting Hamas. You're making excuses. No one deserves to be treated like that. Collective punishment is a war crime. The whole world is going to be as angry at you as they were at the Germans for doing the Holocaust thing. Because you're committing genocide. I don't care. Half the population's starving. 90% of the people are kicked out of their homes. And you're saying, well, why don't you go live in the Sinai? How dare you? This is not in your own self-interest. You say, well, what else are we going to do? You're smart. You're clever. Jews are clever people. I know that's probably a stereotype. You're not more. Let's face it. You're smarter than most people. That's why everybody hates you. Use that big brain, Ashkenazi brain you have, and think of some way that you can live with the Palestinian people in relative peace. I mean, the Protestants and the Catholics in Northern Ireland are doing it. I mean, it's not perfect, but at least they don't throw bombs at each other. It's not perfect. If you could have a situation like that where you could live side by side, they put a little wall between the Protestants and the Catholics. I mean, why they have to live that way, I don't know. But they found some way that they can coexist peacefully without slaughtering each other. You got that big Ashkenazi brain. So do I. You can figure out some way. But what you're doing now is not in your own best interest. It's not. I think I'm just going to say that. Think of your own self-interest because you think, oh, well, we'll just wipe. Alexa, what's my notification?
One new notification from Amazon Shopping. A shipment has arrived, including wrist rocket slingshots for adults.
Ooh. Ooh. Someone accidentally sent me a wrist rocket. Did I order that? Oh dear. You got me. I'm going to find some place to hide it. I'm not allowed to have firearms, but this I looked. It's cheap. It's $25. You can take out a bird or a squirrel. I mean, you can if you hit somebody in the noggin with one of these things with one of those little steel balls. Although most of the balls that they're giving you are clay, you could maybe kill somebody. Although I just like to have some equalizer. You know, I'm a fat old man that can barely move around. Yeah, I mean, people use them to kill to hunt squirrels. You know, like squirrels or small birds. Say society breaks down and I have to eat birds. You know, I'll have something to hunt with. Okay. Anyways, Serenity now. Love everyone. We're all part of this big cosmic bundle, but we got our monkey brains and we're still at the watering hole, killing each other with bones like in 2001. We should love each other. I don't know if that's going to happen. But what's realistic is like the Belfast Accord, because I used to hang with the Irish. And the Irish are not stupid people, and they've got once they're not children. That's one stereotype. You leave the Irish to their own devices, and what do? They create one of the most prosperous societies the world's ever known. So England, let that be a lesson to you. And the Belfast Accord is they don't necessarily like each other, but they're not killing each other anymore. And they've managed to live side by side for almost 30 years. And they made an agreement. And maybe you can do this with the Muslims. If the Catholics become a majority and they take a vote, we can reunite with Ireland instead of being part of England. I think you're going to have to do something like that, and you're going to have to find some way to make amends with the Palestinians. I mean, the Germans were mean to you, and some Jews still live in Germany. And the Germans do feel awfully bad about that, though. They do. I mean, you could say they don't, but most of them do. They're still giving you reparations. So, anyways, are you gonna have to pack? I mean, look at South Africa. A lot of white people are still there. They're suffering. They get attacked every once in a while. So maybe they move to Australia. But I think maybe your best bet would be a two-state solution, and it's going to take a lot of work, but you have to do it. The world is not going to sit by and let you slaughter Palestinians, and then you say, "Oh well, they're bad people. They deserve it." Ugh. It's like what the Germans said. You know what? The Russians and the Jews, they created communism. Communism is bad. We'll just and what they did to the Russians and the Eastern Europeans, the Germans, that was totally inexcusable. And you never hear about how much they suffered. And now the Germans and the Russians, they might be, was it the Ribbentrop Molotov Pact, the Hitler-Stalin Pact, the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact? I mean, now they're still at war, but I mean, that's going to end. They might turn into there might be an alliance there because the Germans need that gas, and people in Europe are getting tired of that Ukraine war. I feel bad for the Ukrainians, but evidently it is a very corrupt society, and it's just a meat grinder. It's never going to end, and I think Russians are going to win by attrition. Maybe we could make some agreement with the Russians that the Ukraine would be a buffer state, because we did kind of encroach on them. But again, see, this is nothing unique about the Jews being evil or the Palestinians being good or the Palestinians being evil and the Jews being good. These are just two angry tribes of monkeys fighting over a watering hole that won't get along and making excuses why they can never get along. You have to. If the world, and this is the thing, for the world to survive, because if you look at the book of Revelations, is that a self-fulfilling prophecy, or is there a God above orchestrating all this? And if you read the book of Revelations, it's not going to be, if that's true, it's you think the Holocaust was bad. I'm not saying this is me. I'm saying read the book of Revelations and what's coming. If that's like set in stone, it's not going to be pretty. Maybe there's no avoiding that. But for me to add my, and who am I to question you if you're up there? But if I could set things in motion, it would be nice if we could go back to the 1947 borders. And the reason the Palestinians didn't like that was they were 60% of the population, or like 65% of the population, and they were getting like 40% of the land. The bulk of the land was being given to the Jews. And it's like Rabbi Shapiro says, Israel is a state that purports to one thing nobody else does. Not only are the people that live there citizens, but all Jews. Judaism is a religion. It's not an ethnicity and it's not a nationality. It's people that obey the Torah. And you can do that from Brooklyn as well as you can do that from Israel. If you actually read the Torah, it says that Jewish people are forbidden a state till the Messiah returns. And if you're a Jew, what do I know? Jesus was not the Messiah and he has not returned yet, so you don't get a state. But there is a state and it's there and it's not going anywhere. Ideally, you could go back to the 47 borders. Ideally, you could go back to your 1967 borders. Ideally, you pull those settlements out of the West Bank and you just get the hell out of there. It's not your land. There's no biblical justification for you living there. Not really. There's no biblical justification for the state of Israel even existing. You are forbidden a state. But let's deal with the realistic, real world, okay? Israel exists. The Palestinians exist. I make the analogy of Northern Ireland. The Irish Republic is basically the Catholic state, and the Northern Ireland is supposed to be the Protestant state. But the majority of people in Northern Ireland are Catholics. And it isn't even a religious thing. This whole thing started way before there even were such things called Protestants. This goes way back. Ironically enough, the Pope gave the Normans Ireland. But anyways, it doesn't matter. It's their country. Ireland belongs to the people of Ireland. Should the Palestinians get their whole state back? That probably would be a bloodbath. But what you're doing now is the least you can do is have a ceasefire and try to talk to people. And for the love of God, don't do nefarious, underhanded things like create your own enemies, like creating Hamas, which you did. You funded them. You wanted them to undermine Fatah because you didn't. And Fatah's corrupt. So the hell what? So is your government. Every government's corrupt except maybe Switzerland and Sweden, and there's corruption everywhere. But the least corrupt governments in the world seem to work the best. Stop making excuses to undermine fairness, basic minimum fairness. You were supposed to get half. They were supposed to get half, and the reason they wouldn't go for that was they were giving 60% of the land to 40% of the people. They didn't like that. They didn't like that you were encroaching on their. And there was a Palestine. There was a Palestine under the Romans. There was a Palestine under the Ottomans. There was a Palestinian mandate under the British. So that's another thing, that they had a state. And it was poor because they weren't getting $5 billion a year from the Americans. I think the state of it, they have to get rid of Netanyahu. They have to have a ceasefire, and they got to make genuine peace efforts. And a good way would be just to stop funding a phony enemy, like Hamas, like creating an enemy so you have a justification to invade, like the Germans did when they pretended the Poles were invading. It's all dirty, underhanded crap. A genuine effort has to be made at peace. And you say, oh, we've tried. I don't think you tried hard enough. And I think you're going to have to try a lot harder. I really do. But this is in your own best interest, because what you're doing now it's not just a matter of your interest. It's a matter of you starting World War III. The Pakistanians have a bomb. The Iranians they could give the bomb to Iran for God's sakes. Although I think they're shooting at each other now. Turkey, that bomb could spread from Pakistan. You know, this has made the whole world crazy. The Houthis could get a hold of a bomb. The Russians could give Turkey a bomb. You know, because of Ukraine. This isn't just a matter of what's good for the Jewish people or the Palestinian people. This could end life on this planet, except for maybe the cockroaches and Twinkies. The cockroaches will eat the Twinkies. But so, in conclusion, can't we all just get along? And I think instead of the underhanded stuff that's endemic in all of humanity, what the Middle East needs is a genuine effort for peace, and I mean for the first time. The Camp David Accords went over well. Rabin tried peace, and they shot him. Next time, maybe I think when it comes to anti-terrorism, I don't think it's just a matter of repressing Hamas. I think there are right-wing terrorists on the Jewish side that need to be repressed. But they did to Rabin. So, and how can you avoid these things? This could end life on Earth. But I try. Alexa, Audible, Peace in Every Step.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Alexa, play Audible.
Getting your selection from Audible. Resuming peace is every step.
Demonstrates his
Serenity
own
now.
He is a true monk.
Love everyone. We're all part of a
Martin went
cosmic
on to write an
oneness.
essay,
Monkeys
Not
at the
Harm
watering
is my
hole.
brother.
Stop
And
killing each
encouraged
other.
me
You
to
can
read
share the water.
Proposals for peace
Oh.
and lend full support for Nathan's advocacy of peace. After
Oh.
important meetings with Senators Fulbright and Kennedy, Secretary of